Four years after releasing its much-loved pack-in title Astro's Playroom, Team Asobi are back with Astro Bot. The game's star, Astro, has appeared on more PlayStation 5s than Kratos, Spider-Man and Ellie combined, starring in the console's pack-in title, the excellent Astro's Playroom. A cult favourite and, according to some, the best game on the PlayStation 5, following this, Team Asobi faces its greatest challenge. Can it capture the magic of what was essentially the world's best tech demo and make it its own game? Ahead of the launch of the game, VGC was invited into Team Asobi's headquarters, deep in the heart of Tokyo. While it was a drizzly day outside, inside Asobi's studio is nothing but joy and hard work, as the team gears up to release Astro Bot. But before Astro Bot, before Astro's Playroom, and before even Rescue Mission VR, there was Sony's PlayStation 4 Playroom, and the birth of a modern PlayStation icon.
So if you consider like the history of PlayStation and kind of how every studio positioned themselves, it's interesting that over the history of PlayStation, and this is something I also show to management when we talk about, you know, what we want to do inside PlayStation. This is also the kind of stuff that we show to our own management. And one of the things was, it was very interesting, as the audience of PlayStation grew, also a lot of these games went from doing cartoon games to kind of a little bit more mature and, you know, very hyper-realistic games. And that's when Team Asobi as a studio, we decided that we really want to fill that gap that used to be maybe the gap from some studios like 20, 25 years ago. And that's really where we want to be, right? So kind of all ages, colorful and stuff. So even if we were to make a horror game, it would be a funny horror game. Right? You know, just like with Astro's Playroom and Astro Bot, you know, we kind of, you know, of course we have our own confidence, but we like to double check that, you know, with the comments that we get. And that's how we got to make, you know, Astro Bot Rescue Mission, which really kind of confirmed. That's at that point we decided on the name Astro. We, you know, at first it was Captain Astro, but in the end we just went Astro. And then later when PS5 came along, we thought, okay, let's challenge, you know, a bigger medium with a much bigger history than VR, you know, in 3D platforming, you know, and are we able to put the game out? So Astro's Playroom was not only a tech demo showing the DualSense controller, it was also like the history tribute. But for us, as a team, it was a way to check that we were capable of making a 3D platformer that didn't rely on VR technology. Because VR was magical and that was a cool card to play, but if you don't have that card, is your game still standing on its own feet?
Yeah, exactly.
For the new game, Asobi wanted to double down on the use of haptic feedback, a feature that Playroom arguably still uses better than any other PlayStation 5 game. Doucette says he initially showed PlayStation bosses a quote from a Washington Post feature to illustrate the quote impossible standard Asobi had set for the use of its controller. Asobi quickly established a brainstorming team, dubbed DualSense 2.0, to create prototypes for new mechanics, but not necessarily containing Astro, such as horse racing, darts, balloon inflation, or tennis. Some tests, such as the one featuring a sponge absorbing water, inspired new power-ups for Astro. Others, such as a demo which had players feeling the texture of a wall, made it into the new game as a way of uncovering secrets. The team also dug out leftover ideas from when they were working on the DualSense while it was still being made.
Periodically, we work with the hardware team to get prototypes of the forthcoming controllers. And these features are not necessarily like, you know, fixed yet. There may be some features that are kind of like, you know, need to be explored. And so we you know, that's when we make demos. And usually that's just 100% programming. There isn't like a decoration and a game behind it. It's not the point. So these demos look primitive and they never kind of move forward from there. But that helps the team actually decide what features to finalize in the controller. It gets shared around the world, not only inside PlayStation Studios, but also to third parties as well. And then later, these ideas we get to, you know, if they were really, really nice, we get to reuse them and then in our game. So in Astro Bot, in fact, you will see some ideas from the DualSense from 4-5 years ago.
Asobi's approach to hyper-fast ideation and iteration is what makes Astro feel so fresh and so willing to adopt new ideas as quickly as it discards old ones. This is baked into the culture at the studio, which regularly holds sessions wherein developers can pitch new mechanics, ideas, and more.
everybody first gets that kind of moment where they get to show what they did. Playing it regularly like that, it ensures that we just know what we're building and taking feedback. So one big things about big element about these 2 weeks reviews, we do something we call I like, let's improve. Everybody gets to say one thing they like about what they saw in the play session, and one thing we should improve. So of course, stuff we like, this is about just having, well, first it helps us measure if the feature is popular, which is very, very useful. But the let's improve is of course what we care the most about. Something that comes up a lot as like maybe a point of frustration, or maybe something that is too difficult, or maybe a lost opportunity, we should do this way instead, right? That comes up, and we can roll that into the next 2 weeks and improve it. Right? And when we do brainstorms, it's not just game designers. There isn't like a specialty for brainstorms. Anybody on the team gets to join. We rotate. So it's a mixture of artists, designers, programmers, sound people, and very short burst sessions where we select one topic, for example, big enemy, and then we decide, okay, what can we do? Well, big enemy, like sumo, how is that? So at that point, then it goes to game designers, and the game designers use paper and pen and paper. We don't have like technological, like super mega tools. We don't use AI, certainly no AI for that. Every game designer has to be quite good at, sketching stuff. And then we scan them, and then that's how we distribute to programmers. So what happens at the end of the 2 weeks? Well, something like that. So that's the sumo enemy. So that's a programmer making everything themselves. The model, the animation, the gameplay. So we try to find, okay, can we get a good gameplay routine there? Okay, so very primitive, but already the gameplay essence can be judged. At that point, if it's fun or not. And then we can try different situations. So if you're on a very narrow beam, followed by a trap, how does that feel? Yeah. If you go straight to a final version, bringing 5 or 6 people in, that's when it gets difficult. If you're lucky, sometimes it works. But for us, we go through this phase where it's one person owns that first prototype, and then once we're sure it's good, then we open up to the whole team. So that's the sumo enemy, and that's the case that kind of goes pretty well. So we have this other one called Big Hand. So this is a new power-up a returning power-up in Astro Bot. Once again, started from the post-it. We thought, hey, power up on your back, and you have big hands, a bit like Dr. Octopus or something like that. And then we started doing the same paper design. So actually, it's going to be a little monkey, and like a suit. You're going to be inside the suit, and it's going to be an evolution of what we had on Astro's Playroom. And then you'd be able to open like very hard shells with your big hands, like being a strong man. You can open these things. These rooms are classic test rooms for programmers. Right? So I mentioned it's a returning mechanic because in Astro's Playroom we had this climbing mechanic, but this time it's integrated into the 3D. Right? A bit different. So you can shoot stuff really, really fast. Yeah, find some secrets. And then the climbing, bringing back the climbing. So can we still make it work by mixing with platforming? Because before it was all separated, but now it's like mixed up. And we managed to find a way to make that work. Yeah. You can climb your way up, and as soon as you're at the top, you Astro like normal kind of 3D controls. Okay, so the prototype is a success, but at that point, okay, how do we make that visual? So we kind of struggled really on that one. We went back and forth with the monkey is too obvious. How about we try something else? Octopus? No. Robotic octopus. It's like UFO, all sorts of things like that. So we concept loads of them. At that point, it's just a very quick fire with concept of just 2D drawing and just decision making. And then we go, you know what? Monkey's fine. So we go back to monkey. And then the other thing is, all of the objects that you saw also have to be concepted. Now, a boulder is boring, so can we do a boulder that is a bit more interesting? So it's been designed to be more interesting. And the things that you grab, let's thin them to monkeys. So bananas, gold bananas, and when you grab, how does it feel? The haptic feedback is also considered at that point to enhance the game. And then off you go.
Astro's Playroom featured dozens of homages to PlayStation history, a cameo parade of hardware that quickly endeared the game to long-term fans. Now, Astro Bot serves not only as PlayStation's big 2024 release, it's also a celebration of PlayStation's 30th anniversary. The game features over 150 cameo bots, some characters you'll know, some that might require a quick Google search, and some that will have you wondering how they even got the rights to them.
The cameos, were popular. They were very primitive. I mean, if you look at those, it's just like one hat. But it was done on purpose because we didn't want to go too heavy-handed. Just wanted, we were a bit shy at the time, right? But then that was so popular, we thought, okay, we're gonna go big, right? Yeah. So we do this, and this is a concept image from the beginning where we have a lot of characters. We wanted to go with secondary characters, like it's not just Drake, it's also Elena, and it's also Chloe, and it's also all these kind of other characters. Very quickly that became like a big list. But then we thought also, we really want to make this high quality this time. We want to go really high, so we're gonna have to think about a strategy for that. And then the idea would be that first of all, as you rescue these characters, it's a little bit like when you have like your Pokemon cards or your Panini stickers, like some of them are shiny, right? In the level, there would be some characters that are special, right? Every level has, of course, all these guys to rescue, but these kind of special nuggets as well. So we also, at the time, we had concepted a few of those, of course, from the SAE collection, but Jak and Daxter, Returnal, Journey, and Ratchet, just to give an idea of kind of, okay, what sort of fidelity are we aiming for? But it turns out that it's actually a really good thing because it's also a generation bridge. You get to play with kids, they see Parappa, they don't know who Parappa is, but he's a funny guy. It's kind of like, and so you can say, hey, when I was your age, I was playing with Parappa too. So, 30 years is a generation, and all of that is just logical, right? It's just falling into place.
You can read our full review of Astro Bot on VGC, but it's safe to say we're incredibly impressed with the sequel. Astro Bot isn't simply an enjoyable platformer with some nostalgia tying it together, it's a generationally impressive entry in the genre that understands PlayStation at an atomic level. The sheer level of joy the game produces leaves it impossible to compare to anything other than Mario's very best adventures. Astro is no longer a vector through which PlayStation references other PlayStation icons, he is a PlayStation icon.